Hey guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today we are talking about spring bass fishing with spinnerbaits. We're going to cover different scenarios. We're going to make this as simple as possible. Talking about spinnerbaits for clear water, spinnerbaits for murky and muddy water, when to throw what color, different sizes, different shapes, trailer options. We're going to take a quick look at all of it. Now this video is not going to be as in-depth as the video we did last spring, simply because, as I'm sure you can tell, I am losing my voice. Too many days fishing out in the rain, it's caught up to me. No big deal, but today's going to go a little bit faster. We're going to jump over a couple of topics. So down in the video description, I'll link you last year's super in-depth video that covered modifications and tricks and things like that. Today we're specifically going to focus in on the best baits to throw in spring, whether you have murky conditions or clear water conditions, and when you should pick that spinnerbait up in the first place. So first off, when do you throw a spinnerbait? Why is this so urgent? Why am I willing to talk about it when I have almost no voice? The reason why is right now is prime time. This is, in my opinion, one of the best times of the entire year to get out there and throw a spinnerbait. For me, spinnerbaits and their success revolves around moving water. Now, that can be flooding conditions where you've got chocolate milk water just pouring into the lake. And we've got that all over the country right now. We've got that right here in our own backyard. Rising muddy conditions. That moving water gets those fish right up dirt shallow. But it can also be a clear water thing. See, wind, turbulence will also create water movement, and that is another prime time to be throwing that spinnerbait. Let's start off with murky conditions and then work to clear, and then we'll wrap it up talking about trailers. Probably the way to keep this the easiest is just to give you a couple of recommendations. When you've got murky water conditions, so I'm going to say less than 18 inches of visibility in the springtime, you're going to want to go to a bolder colored spinnerbait. Either a white or a white and chartreuse or a true chartreuse. Something like that. A bold color. My personal preference is a white. That's what I like to start with. I don't go to chartreuse until I have to. I feel like I get more bites and more quality bites on white. But again, it is a personal preference thing. You might find that your lake is a little bit different. Now, blades. Notice here, these are both white spinnerbaits. Here's white, this is white and chartreuse. Here I've got painted blades. Here I've got a nickel or silver and a gold blade. Here's a Strike King, another example of painted blades. What I've found is that when you have murky conditions, painted blades can make all the difference in the world. I mean, it can be the difference between occasionally getting bite and just an absolute slugfest. White on white on white is probably my favorite painted pattern, but there's a lot of times where a straight chartreuse blade or a mixed color blade like that, like a chartreuse shad type blade, really makes a big difference. But I've found that those shine the most when you've still got stormy conditions or low light conditions. Once the sunlight starts beating down on the water, now whether that means the sun breaks out after a storm and you hit the lake, or you were on a spinnerbait bite in the morning and now the sun's really getting up high and you're getting more sunlight, I'm going to make a quick transition. I'm going to leave the painted blades behind and I'm going to go to a combination silver and gold blade. Something about when that sun gets up and really starts beating on that water, there is magic in those chrome and gold blades. That bright reflection that comes off those blades just takes over. But when you don't have that beating sunlight, when you don't have that either low light or cloudy early in the morning, painted blades are amazing. They pull fish in so well. You know, fish come to the vibration, but then when they get there, they see all that commotion and they're on it. But again, once that sun's up high, I think that flash takes over the actual visibility of a painted blade. Now, again, we're still talking murky water. Colors, keep it pretty simple. Those bold colors tend to be the ticket. Don't worry about getting into the really ghosty colors. Don't even worry about it. Now, down in the video description, I'm going to give you 2 or 3 of my absolute favorite spinnerbaits for murky water, as well as the exact colors that I throw them in. I'm going to do the same thing for clear water, just to make it really easy for you. And we'll cover the price points so everybody's comfortable. But guys, you can do this. It's really simple. Now, the actual fishing of the spinnerbait, so easy. Throw that thing out, throw it shallow, just wind it back out. And then what I like to do to trigger bites, ideally, you see a piece of cover. If you know you're swimming along and you're coming up to a stick in the water, right when you get to the stick, I just give an extra crank. So I'm cranking steady and I just throw in an extra one. I just speed one up. I don't stop or pause. I actually add to it. But what'll happen is that bait's coming along, those blades are turning, and then it speeds up and flutters and then goes back to normal. When you do that coming by a piece of cover, you can really get fish to just lash out and commit to that bait and eat it right there on the spot. Now, if you can't see visible targets, there's no stick-ups or bushes or dock pilings or anything obvious, just periodically add it into your cast every 15 feet or so. Just an extra pump in the handle. And it really helps get those fish to commit. Now, if you have that rising muddy water where the lake is actually coming up, you want to be fishing dirt shallow. Just as shallow as you possibly can. I'm talking inches of water, because as that water rises, those fish will be patrolling that edge, getting shallower and shallower and shallower, hunting on all that new ground that's coming in, looking for food. Once that water stabilizes, they're going to back off a little bit and they're going to get back into the cover. But while it's actively rising, you can get out there and catch those fish. And I know this is the condition in half the country right now, where we've got that just churning, muddy water. We have it out here. It's in the south. It's in the east. I mean, water is just booming all over the country. Don't be afraid to get out there right in the middle of it. Don't be afraid of that current, but fish shallow as you can. Now, let's switch gears. Let's talk about clear water. Clear water is a little bit different. Concept is the same, but you want to go to the ghostier colors. I lean very hard on the silvers, chrome, nickel blades. That is where my attention goes immediately in clear water. There's always going to be an exception. There's always going to be that one day where they're eating chartreuse in that clear water. But if you could only have one, you're going to go with like a blue shad, really natural color with nickel willow leaf blades. No question. That is just the bread and butter. And then a matching trailer. Now, and we'll come back to trailers here in a second. Now, again, I said everything revolves around moving water. If I've got a clear water fishery, say 5, 10, 20, 30 feet of visibility, bright sunshine, bluebird skies, slick calm water, I'm not going to throw a spinnerbait. That's not when your odds are going to be the highest. But when you start getting water movement, so in that case it would be waves coming in, churning up that water, breaking up the surface, breaking up the light, all of a sudden the spinnerbait becomes a serious factor. You're going to treat it almost like you would muddy water. You're just going to run down the bank, cover water, because those fish will move up. As those waves start breaking the shore, creates the same effect. Those bass will get up there and try and hunt whatever's getting washed in. So fish shallow, cover water, add those quick reel snaps in there. You can get a lot of fish to convert. But again, you want to stay really, really natural in that clear water. Now, in both scenarios, I actually deviate from the norm quite a bit. I prefer willow leaf blades all the time. I always, even when I'm throwing those painted blades in muddy water, I like a willow on willow. A lot of people throw Colorado blades in murky water, and it works. But I would submit to you that in most fisheries nationally, anywhere that they're eating small to mid-sized bait fish, they're not specifically eating bluegill. Those willow leaf blades are magic. They just convert fish really, really well. An Indiana blade can do it too, but once you go to Colorado and you get that big, heavy vibration and thump, my numbers seem to back down. I do better with the willow, even in that muddy water, but especially in the clear water. With willow on willow, nickel finish. I can't say that enough. Now, trailers. Here's the deal, and you may have never noticed this. This is going to be one that you want to take note of. Not every spinnerbait is shaped the same. Now that's a given, right? But as you pick up these spinnerbaits, here's what I want you to see. You see my hook down here. Look where the blade is related to the hook. So in the case of this Revenge spinnerbait, which is a fantastic spinnerbait, that willow starts behind the point of the hook. This is a River to Sea Bling, one of my absolute favorites. This one, the willow starts almost halfway up in front of that hook. Let's see this one. Straight King. That willow is clear down at the back of the hook. Now, it's not good or bad. That's not what I'm saying. But what you need to know is that the farther the blades extend past that hook, the more often you're going to get short strikes. That's why the Strike King, as an example, comes stock with a trailer hook. They know that. It's not a secret. So I want you to look at your spinnerbaits. This one, my hook point, halfway down the willow. That's ideal. The farther back that blade is, again, you're going to have more fish naturally short strike. The more likely it is that you need to add an extra hook. Personally, I like a 3/0 hook. There's a handful of companies that are going to make spinnerbait trailer hooks. They're going to come with material already on them, and all you do is just take them and stab that hook point through. See if I can do this and show you here. Stabs through, and then it'll just sit there in place. And again, I'll link you my favorites, just like we always do. But the farther back that blade hangs, the more critical that becomes. However, especially when fishing shallow cover, that thing can become a problem. It can get in the way. It gets snagged, it gets hooked on things, it catches the grass, it catches the brush. If you're fishing shallow, it can be a nightmare. A small swim bait can make all the difference in the world. There's an example right there. What happens is when those fish come in on that bait, they come for the vibration, but when they get there, they actually see the profile, and they no longer go after the vibration. They see the profile, and they eat the bait. Without it, they come in, they don't see that much as they're coming in hot, but they still feel the vibration, and they go for the vibration. So it's really important, if you want to go without a trailer hook so that you stay weedless, put on a swim bait. I recommend for the small spinnerbaits a 3.8 Kitech. For larger full profile spinnerbaits, the 4.3 Kitech. I used to throw a 4.8, and I found after doing it day after day after day, the 4.8, sometimes on my cast, the tail would come around and catch on that hook and I would foul up. The 4.3 does it far less. So the 4.3 is your perfect trailer to put on the back of almost any spinnerbait. See how great that profile is when that sits in there? Those fish come in and they aim straight for the swim bait. Makes all the difference. But if you're using a traditional, like double tail trailer, or you just want a stinger hook, say you're fishing spotted bass, they're just slapping at it, then put a trailer on there. And I recommend, again, a 3/0. The reason why is we don't throw a spinnerbait on light tackle. Medium to a medium heavy, leaning much more to the medium heavy rod, sometimes even a heavy rod in cover. And if you hook them on a little 1/0 spinnerbait trailer hook with that heavy a tackle, you tend to bend them out. So it's better just to use a 3/0, so when you stick them, you've really got them. Guys, this is the time of year that you throw a spinnerbait. I'm sorry that I can't jump super in depth with how we do the modifications to these things, but again, we did a video that covered some of that last year. We're going to link that down in the description for you. That's about all I can handle today. But the last thing I'm going to leave you with, one more thing. Given a choice, I throw little spinnerbaits. Notice most of the spinnerbaits here, this is a standard revenge spinnerbait. It's not even big, it's standard. That's an industry norm. Look how small a lot of these other spinnerbaits are next to that guy. They're much, much, much smaller. I love throwing smaller spinnerbaits. I just think I get more bites. So, as I link everything down in the video description, you're going to notice that most of those, even for murky water, are going to be your smaller profile baits. It's a personal preference, but take my confidence and run with it. I'm telling you, if you throw a smaller bait, you're careful with your color selection. Don't get crazy. There's absolutely a time and a place for red and black, day glow orange. They're critical colors, but not for everybody, everywhere, every day. If you're just going to jump in here and start throwing a springtime spinnerbait, keep it really, really simple. Don't worry about owning 40 different colors. Just jump in and give it a try with a smaller bait, swim bait trailer, natural color. You're going to have a blast. I appreciate you guys. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.